Avengers Infinity War, Part 1. The movie opens in space, right after the destruction of Asgard. A distress signal echoes through the stars as we find the Asgardian ship floating in ruins. Inside, the terror is real. Fire, smoke, bodies lying lifeless, and in the middle of it all, the children of Thanos have arrived. Ebony Maw walks through the wreckage, addressing the Asgardians with a calm but chilling voice, praising Thanos and preaching the blessing of being killed by him. Close quote. Thor lies defeated. Heimdall is injured. Loki stands tall but knows what's coming. Thanos himself steps forward, massive, calm, terrifying. He's already wearing the Power Stone, which he took after decimating Xandar. Thanos is here for the Space Stone, the one inside the Tesseract. Thanos lifts Thor with one hand like he's nothing. Loki tries to play clever, saying they have a Hulk. Cue Hulk bursting in and attacking Thanos, giving him a good beatdown, at first. But Thanos quickly recovers and fights back, showing his strength, strategy, and brutal precision. He overpowers Hulk without using the Power Stone, humiliating him in front of everyone. Ebony Maw stops Cull Obsidian from interfering. Let him have his fun, he says, showing just how confident they are in their master. Meanwhile, Heimdall summons the last of his strength and uses dark magic to activate the Bifrost, sending Hulk crashing down to Earth, warning them of the coming threat. Thanos kills Heimdall right after. Loki, in a desperate move, offers the Tesseract, pretending to pledge allegiance, but he tries to stab Thanos instead. Thanos, unmoved, chokes the life out of Loki in front of Thor. No resurrections this time, he says coldly. Thanos crushes the Tesseract, retrieves the Space Stone, adds it to the gauntlet, and then leaves, blowing up the entire ship, with Thor left floating in the void of space. Cut to Earth. Hulk smashes through the ceiling of the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York, scaring Wong and Doctor Strange. He turns back into Bruce Banner and delivers the line, "Thanos is coming." Strange brings Tony Stark to the Sanctum. Bruce warns them all about Thanos, about the Infinity Stones. He explains who Thanos is, what the stones do, and that he already has two. Tony, ever the skeptic, but clearly shaken, realizes the threat level is cosmic. The stakes are higher than ever. Banner also learns that Steve Rogers and the Avengers are no longer together after the Civil War, that they're fractured, and they'll need everyone. Just as Tony is processing everything, Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian arrive in New York. Chaos erupts. People scream as their spaceship descends from the clouds. A battle begins right in the streets of Manhattan. Tony suits up. His new nanotech suit is slick, fast, and powerful. Strange uses his magical shields and portals. Wong is slinging spells. Banner tries to Hulk out, but the Hulk refuses to come out, too scared after being beaten by Thanos. Peter Parker sees the spaceship from his school bus and jumps into action as Spider-Man. He swings through the city, joins the fight, and quickly teams up with Iron Man and Strange. Maw captures Strange because he holds the Time Stone, embedded in the Eye of Agamotto. Maw lifts him onto the spaceship and begins torturing him. Tony and Peter sneak aboard the ship before it leaves Earth. Back in space, the Guardians of the Galaxy answer the Asgardian distress call. They find Thor's body floating. He crashes onto their windshield. They bring him inside. Once awake, Thor explains the situation. Thanos, the Infinity Stones, the massacre of his people. He realizes he needs a new weapon since Mjolnir was destroyed. He plans to go to Nidavellir, the Forge of the Gods. Rocket and Groot decide to go with him. The team splits. Thor, Rocket, and Groot head for Nidavellir, while Peter Quill, Gamora, Drax, and Mantis head to Nowhere, hoping to stop Thanos from getting the Reality Stone from the Collector. Meanwhile, on the spaceship, Tony and Peter try to save Strange. They fight off Maw in space using clever tactics and teamwork. They eject Maw into space and save Strange. They can't return to Earth, so they decide to fly to Titan, Thanos' destroyed homeworld, to confront him there. Back on Earth, Vision and Wanda are in hiding in Scotland. They've fallen in love. But they're attacked by Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, two of Thanos' deadly lieutenants, who are after the Mind Stone in Vision's forehead. They fight back, and just when they're about to lose, Steve Rogers shows up, bearded, battle-hardened, and badass. Natasha Romanoff and Sam Wilson, Falcon, are with him. They fight off the attackers and save Wanda and Vision. They all regroup at the Avengers' secret base, where Rhodey, War Machine, is. Bruce is already there. The old crew slowly comes back together. fractured but willing to fight. Steve decides they need help from Wakanda, the only place where Vision can be protected and maybe the Mind Stone safely removed. Cue the trip to Wakanda, where King T'Challa and Shuri begin working on Vision, trying to extract the stone without killing him. Meanwhile, Wakanda begins preparing for war. Thor, barely alive, is found by the Guardians of the Galaxy. Their ship picks up the Asgardian wreckage, and they hear the distress signal. The Guardians pull Thor aboard. Peter Quill immediately feels threatened by Thor's muscular build, and the banter begins. Drax calls Thor a handsome, muscular man, and Rocket refers to him as a man-angel pirate. This comic relief offers a breather before the storm returns. Thor regains consciousness and tells the Guardians what happened. He reveals that Thanos is hunting the Infinity Stones. Gamora's expression shifts. She knows exactly what Thanos is capable of. She's lived under his tyranny and carries deep scars from it. Thor informs them that Thanos already has the Power Stone and the Space Stone. The Reality Stone is with the Collector on Nowhere. Thor decides to go to Nidavellir, the legendary forge of weapons, to get a new weapon, Stormbreaker. Rocket and Groot go with him, while the others, Quill, Gamora, Drax, and Mantis, head to Nowhere. Meanwhile, in Edinburgh, Vision and Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, are living in hiding, secretly trying to find moments of peace. But that peace is short-lived. 2 members of the Black Order, Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight, attack them. Vision is wounded and unable to phase, putting them both in danger. But just as the situation becomes dire, Captain America arrives, in shadow and silhouette, backed by Black Widow and Falcon. This moment is powerful. The original Avengers theme cues in subtly, and the audience erupts. Cap, now in hiding after the events of Civil War, is bearded and battle-worn. There are no stars on his suit, just grit and defiance. They fight back the attackers, forcing them to retreat. Cap and team take Vision and Wanda to the Avengers compound, where they reunite with Rhodey, War Machine, who is also recovering from Civil War's consequences. Back in space, Peter Quill and team arrive on Nowhere. The place seems empty, eerily quiet. They find the Collector, but something feels off. Gamora confronts Thanos and stabs him, but it's an illusion. Thanos used the Reality Stone to manipulate their perception. He now has 3 stones. He captures Gamora. Before leaving, he warps reality around Quill and the others, turning Drax into cubes and Mantis into ribbons, only to restore them moments later, a show of cruel power. Thanos takes Gamora to his ship, the Sanctuary 2. There, he confronts her emotionally, showing vulnerability we haven't seen before in a villain. He claims he loves her. He's proud of her. He wants her to join him. But she resists. He tortures Nebula in front of Gamora, using her broken cybernetic body to extract the truth. Gamora had once found the Soul Stone's location and lied about it. Under duress, she reveals the Soul Stone is on Vormir. They arrive on Vormir. There they meet the Stonekeeper, Red Skull, cursed to guide others to the stone he can never possess. He reveals the cost of the Soul Stone, a soul for a soul. To gain the stone, Thanos must sacrifice someone he loves. Gamora laughs, believing this is the end of Thanos' quest. She thinks he doesn't love anyone. But Thanos, with tears streaming down his face, turns to her. In a heartbreaking moment, he sacrifices Gamora, throwing her off the cliff. The screen goes silent. The music fades. Only the howling wind and her scream remain. He wakes up with the Soul Stone in his hand. Meanwhile, Thor, Rocket, and Groot arrive at Nidavellir. The forge is silent, its mechanisms frozen. They find Eitri, the Dwarven King, played by Peter Dinklage, who reveals that Thanos forced him to build the Infinity Gauntlet. Afterward, Thanos killed the dwarves and left Eitri's hands encased in metal, rendering him unable to forge again. Thor convinces him to help. They work together to reignite the forge's dying star. The scene is monumental. Thor holds open the Iris Gate, enduring the full power of the star to restart the forge. It's a show of raw, godly strength. Stormbreaker is forged, an axe capable of summoning the Bifrost and piercing Thanos' defenses. Groot sacrifices part of his arm to form the handle. On Earth, Cap and team bring Vision to Wakanda. They need Shuri's help to safely remove the Mind Stone from Vision without killing him. Wakanda is now the last line of defense. T'Challa prepares for war, and the war comes fast. Thanos sends his army, hordes of monstrous outriders, to breach Wakanda's defenses and retrieve the Mind Stone. What follows is one of the most epic battle sequences in MCU history. The Avengers, Wakandan warriors, Dora Milaje, and the Jabari tribe all fight side by side. The battlefield is chaos. Hulk is still refusing to emerge, so Banner fights in the Hulkbuster armor. Thor, Rocket, and Groot arrive through the Bifrost mid-battle, and the crowd goes wild. Thor's entrance, with Stormbreaker crackling lightning, is spine-chilling. "Bring me Thanos," he roars, leveling the battlefield. Cut back to Titan, Thanos' homeworld, now ruined. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and the Guardians, minus Gamora, set a trap. They fight Thanos with coordinated precision. Strange uses his magic to slow Thanos. Peter swings and distracts. Quill, Drax, and Mantis join in. They nearly succeed in removing the gauntlet. But when Quill learns Gamora is dead, his rage takes over. He attacks Thanos, breaking Mantis' hold. Thanos regains control and defeats them all. Before leaving, he gravely wounds Iron Man. Strange, who earlier saw millions of possible futures, surrenders the Time Stone to save Tony. "We're in the endgame now," he whispers. Back on Earth, the Wakandan battlefield is nearing collapse. Proxima Midnight and Cull Obsidian fall. Vision convinces Wanda to destroy the Mind Stone, and him along with it. She does, in a gut-wrenching moment of love and sacrifice. But it's not over. Thanos arrives. One by one, the Avengers fall trying to stop him. Wanda's sacrifice is undone. Thanos uses the Time Stone to reverse Vision's destruction and rips the Mind Stone from his head. Now he has all 6 stones. Back in New York, Bruce Banner has rejoined Tony Stark after years. However, the reunion is short-lived as Stephen Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, appears through a portal at Tony's location. The world's in danger, and they need to act fast. Banner warns Tony and Strange about Thanos, about the coming war. Strange then brings them to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where he and Wong explain the significance of the Time Stone housed in the Eye of Agamotto. Tony, quick to pick up on the threat level, is already thinking ahead. But Strange, more rigid in his responsibility to protect the stone, doesn't quite align with Tony's impulsive approach. Just then, New York descends into chaos. A giant ring-like spaceship appears in the sky. One of Thanos' children, Ebony Maw, has arrived alongside Cull Obsidian. Their mission is clear: retrieve the Time Stone from Doctor Strange. The streets turn into a war zone. Tony dons his latest Iron Man suit, the nanotech-based Mark L armor, transforming seamlessly into battle mode. Banner tries to transform into Hulk, but something's off. Hulk refuses to come out, his pride wounded after the earlier defeat. As Banner struggles, Tony launches into action alongside Strange and Wong. Peter Parker, swinging through the city on a school trip, notices the chaos and joins the fight, suited up as Spider-Man. The ensuing battle is intense. Ebony Maw captures Doctor Strange by subduing him with his telekinetic powers and begins levitating him aboard the spaceship. Tony quickly follows in hot pursuit, clinging to the spaceship as it lifts off. Peter manages to latch onto the ship as well, but he's at risk of losing oxygen. Tony sends the Iron Spider suit to catch and protect Peter mid-air. Inside the spaceship, Maw begins torturing Strange to extract the Time Stone from him. Peter and Tony regroup inside the ship, realizing they must work together to rescue Strange. Tony night dubs Peter an Avenger as they head deeper into enemy territory. Meanwhile, back on Earth in Scotland, Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, and Vision are living a quiet, hidden life. Vision now looks more human, thanks to his shape-shifting ability. The two are in love, but their peace is shattered as Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight attack. They are after the Mind Stone embedded in Vision's forehead. The battle spills into the streets. Vision is wounded and unable to phase properly. Just when things seem dire, Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, and Sam Wilson Falcon arrive in heroic fashion. Cap, now bearded and without the Stars and Stripes uniform, steps out of the shadows to defend his fallen allies. Together, the team manages to drive off the attackers. Steve reunites with Wanda and Vision and brings them to the Avengers compound, where Bruce, Rhodey, and the others regroup. Tensions are high, especially between Rhodey and General Ross, who still sees the Avengers as criminals due to the Sokovia Accords. But Ross's orders fall flat when Steve simply disconnects the call. They decide to head to Wakanda, the one place where Vision may be safe and healed. Wakanda, with its advanced technology and Shuri's brilliance, may hold the key to removing the Mind Stone without killing Vision. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the Guardians of the Galaxy respond to the Asgardian distress signal. Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, and Groot arrive to find a wreckage of bodies in space. They rescue a stranded Thor, who crashes into their windshield like a rag doll. After a humorous exchange, and a bit of jealousy from Star-Lord, Thor regains consciousness and updates them about Thanos and the loss of the Asgardians. Thor insists he must travel to Nidavellir, the Forge of the Gods, to create a new weapon capable of killing Thanos. Rocket and Groot volunteer to join him, while the rest of the Guardians decide to head to Nowhere to intercept Thanos before he gets the Reality Stone. On Nowhere, Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, and Mantis arrive to find the Collector's place seemingly intact. They watch as Thanos interrogates the Collector about the Reality Stone. Gamora sees an opportunity and attacks, stabbing Thanos. He appears to die, but it's a trick. The entire scene is revealed to be an illusion, manipulated by the already obtained Reality Stone. Thanos reverses everything, trapping the Guardians in various ways. He captures Gamora and vanishes into a portal. Aboard his ship, Thanos shares a quiet, twistedly emotional moment with Gamora. Through flashbacks, we learn how he adopted her as a child after massacring half her planet's population. Though brutal, he believes he saved her. Gamora, though filled with hatred, still holds a secret. She knows the location of the Soul Stone but swore to never tell. But Thanos isn't alone. He's captured Nebula, Gamora's sister, and begins torturing her in front of Gamora. Unable to bear it, Gamora reveals the Soul Stone's location, Vormir. Back on Earth, the Avengers arrive in Wakanda, greeted by T'Challa, Okoye, and the Dora Milaje. The city prepares for war as Shuri begins her work to safely extract the Mind Stone from Vision. Steve, Bucky, now free from his mental programming and given a new vibranium arm, and the Wakandan army ready themselves for Thanos' incoming forces. Banner, still unable to summon Hulk, dons a large Hulkbuster armor instead. Meanwhile, Thor, Rocket, and Groot arrive at Nidavellir, but the forge is dormant. The star is dead. They meet Eitri, the last of the dwarves, who tells them how Thanos forced him to make the Infinity Gauntlet and then wiped out his people. Thor inspires him to reignite the forge's power. The sequence is epic, Thor holding open the iris to allow the star's energy to melt metal. With Thor nearly dying, Eitri finishes the weapon, Stormbreaker, a battle axe with the ability to summon the Bifrost. Groot sacrifices part of his arm to form the handle, and the weapon is born. Just in time, Thor uses Stormbreaker to summon the Bifrost and teleports to Earth. Back on Earth, the heroes regroup at the Avengers facility. Colonel James Rhodes, aka War Machine, is discussing things with General Thunderbolt Ross. Ross immediately orders Rhodes to arrest Captain America, who's now a fugitive. But Rhodes, showing where his loyalties lie, cuts the call. Steve, Sam, Wanda, and Vision enter the room. Bruce is already there, shocked to see Steve again. It's a quiet but emotional reunion. The team knows they must act fast. Vision wants to sacrifice himself, believing that destroying the Mind Stone is the only way to stop Thanos. But Wanda refuses. Steve says, "We don't trade lives." The team decides to head to Wakanda. If there's any place on Earth that can extract the Mind Stone without killing Vision, it's Wakanda. T'Challa, King of Wakanda, welcomes them. Shuri, the tech genius sister of T'Challa, begins the delicate process of removing the stone, but they're out of time. Thanos' army is already approaching. Meanwhile, in space, Tony Stark and Peter Parker are now on board Ebony Maw's Q-ship. Peter suggests using the classic alien movie plan. They blow a hole in the ship and suck Maw into space. Tony, Peter, and the freed Doctor Strange take control of the ship. Strange wants to return to Earth, but Tony argues they should take the fight to Thanos. Peter is knighted as an Avenger officially during this. Elsewhere on Nowhere, the Guardians confront Thanos as he tortures the Collector. Gamora takes a chance and stabs Thanos, apparently killing him. But it was an illusion, a Reality Stone trick. Thanos reveals he already has the Reality Stone. He turns Drax into cubes and Mantis into ribbons, only to revert them back seconds later. He kidnaps Gamora and vanishes. On his ship, Thanos confronts Gamora. She's angry, hateful, but he's calm. He shows her that he still has love for her. We get a flashback of young Gamora being taken from her home planet by Thanos. He protected her from the massacre of her people. In his twisted way, he always treated her as his daughter. Nebula is being tortured. suspended midair, pulled apart piece by piece as Thanos forces Gamora to reveal the location of the Soul Stone. Gamora, devastated, gives in. She says the stone is on Vormir. On Vormir, Thanos and Gamora meet the Red Skull, now the Stonekeeper. The Soul Stone demands a sacrifice. Not just any sacrifice, a soul for a soul. Gamora mocks Thanos, thinking he has nothing he loves. But then, she sees it in his eyes. Thanos is crying. She realizes he truly loves her. And with a heavy heart, Thanos throws Gamora off the cliff. Her body crashes on the rocks below. The sacrifice is complete. The Soul Stone is his. Back on Earth, the Wakandans prepare for war. Steve, Bucky, T'Challa, and the rest prepare for Thanos' forces. Banner, unable to summon the Hulk, dons the Hulkbuster armor. Shuri continues working on Vision. The sky darkens as alien dropships appear, unleashing thousands of snarling four-armed creatures, the Outriders. The battlefield turns into chaos. The Outriders begin pushing through the Wakandan shield. T'Challa orders the shields to open to funnel them in. What follows is a brutal cinematic clash. Warriors of Wakanda and Avengers battling beasts side by side. Bucky fights with a new vibranium arm. Rocket is impressed. Thor is still missing, but the Earth defenders hold the line. Meanwhile in space, Tony, Strange, and Peter crash the Q-ship into Titan, Thanos' ruined homeworld. There, they encounter the Guardians, Star-Lord, Drax, and Mantis. A scuffle breaks out, then they realize they're all on the same side. Strange uses the Time Stone to view over 14 million possible outcomes. He finds only one where they win. On Titan, the heroes come up with a plan. They intend to trap Thanos, restrain him, and remove the gauntlet. Thanos arrives, calm and philosophical. He talks with Stark about destiny, about balance. He fights the team, and for a moment, it works. They almost pull off the gauntlet. But then Star-Lord learns Gamora is dead. He loses control, attacks Thanos, and the plan falls apart. Thanos regains control, defeats everyone, and stabs Tony. It looks like it's over, but Strange makes a choice. He gives up the Time Stone to save Tony's life. Thanos takes it and vanishes. In Wakanda, things are going south. Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, and Cull Obsidian are battling the heroes. Wanda is forced to leave Vision's side to help in battle. This gives Corvus a chance to strike. But just as hope begins to fade, the Bifrost blasts down. Thor arrives, wielding his new weapon, Stormbreaker. Lightning cracks the battlefield as Thor, Rocket, and Groot join the fight. It's an epic moment. Thor shouts, "Bring me Thanos," and hurls Stormbreaker, obliterating hundreds of Outriders. The battle turns in favor of the Avengers, but only for a while. In the final moments, Thanos arrives in Wakanda, walking calmly through the chaos, brushing aside Earth's mightiest heroes one by one. Banner, Steve, T'Challa, none can stop him. Wanda, heartbroken, is forced to destroy the Mind Stone while holding Thanos off. She succeeds. Vision dies. The Mind Stone is gone. But Thanos uses the Time Stone. He reverses time, brings Vision back, and rips the stone from his head. Vision dies again. The final Infinity Stone is his. We then move to Vision and Wanda in Scotland. They've been living off the grid, away from everyone, trying to make a life together. Vision has developed more human traits, even a human-like appearance, and Wanda is genuinely in love. Their bond is deep and real. But peace doesn't last long. The Black Order arrives, Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, seeking the Mind Stone embedded in Vision's forehead. A brutal and desperate battle breaks out in the streets. Vision tries to fight, but he's injured almost immediately, his systems disrupted. Wanda defends him with everything she has, her powers glowing violently in the rain-soaked alley. They're outmatched, cornered, and just when things seem hopeless, Captain America emerges from the shadows, accompanied by Black Widow and Falcon. The crowd in theaters erupted at this moment. Cap has a beard now. He's not the Star-Spangled Man from before. He's a man on the run. And he's ready to fight. The fight turns in their favor. Proxima and Corvus retreat, but not before doing damage. Vision's condition is critical. The group decides to take him to Wakanda, home of the most advanced technology on Earth, to try and extract the stone safely from his head without killing him. Cut to Wakanda. We see King T'Challa and his sister Shuri preparing their nation for war. They agree to help remove the Mind Stone while keeping Vision alive. Shuri is confident, but time is short. The Outriders, Thanos' monstrous alien army, are on their way, and Wakanda becomes the battleground for Earth's last stand. Meanwhile, in space, Thor, Rocket, and Groot arrive at Nidavellir. the forge of the gods. But the forge is dead. The star that powered it has gone cold, and the place is deserted except for Eitri, the giant dwarf king, played by Peter Dinklage. Thanos had been there. He forced Eitri to create the Infinity Gauntlet, then destroyed his hands so he could never forge again. It's a moment of sorrow and guilt, and Thor feels the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. Thor persuades Eitri to help forge a new weapon, Stormbreaker, a king's weapon powerful enough to kill Thanos. But to make it, they need to reignite the star. What follows is a sequence of sheer power and sacrifice. Thor holds open the iris of the forge with his bare strength, channeling the full energy of a dying star. It's brutal. His body is torn and scorched, but he refuses to fall. Groot, inspired by Thor's determination, sacrifices part of his own arm to form the handle for Stormbreaker. The weapon is complete, and Thor, reborn with the power of thunder in both eyes, is ready to rejoin the fight. Back on Titan, we find Iron Man, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and the Guardians formulating a plan to ambush Thanos. Strange uses the Time Stone to view millions of possible futures, 14,605 to be exact. In only one of them do they win. It's a chilling stat, but it sets the tone for what's coming. They engage Thanos in one of the most visually stunning battles in the MCU. Each hero uses their skills, magic, tech, agility, brute force, working in perfect sync. Mantis puts Thanos in a trance. They almost succeed in removing the gauntlet. But then Peter Quill learns that Thanos has killed Gamora. In a moment of grief and rage, he punches Thanos, breaking Mantis's control. Thanos awakens, furious. He unleashes his fury, turning a moon into a barrage of meteor shards and raining them down on Titan. The team is devastated. Strange, however, hands over the Time Stone willingly to Thanos, surprising everyone. When asked why, he simply says, "We're in the endgame now." It's subtle, but you can feel the shift. He's seen what has to happen. Cut to Earth again, Wakanda. The battle begins. A massive, chaotic, thunderous clash of spears, shields, energy blasts, and alien horrors. Captain America, Black Panther, Okoye, Bucky, and the rest of the Avengers lead the charge. They fight with every ounce of strength they have, trying to hold the line while Shuri works on extracting the stone from Vision. The Outriders breach the shield. Hulk, still refusing to come out, forces Bruce to fight in the Hulkbuster armor. War Machine and Falcon take to the skies. The scope of battle is insane. Just when things look their darkest, the Bifrost rips through the battlefield. Stormbreaker flies in like a comet, followed by Thor, Rocket, and Groot. Thor lands with lightning crackling in every direction. His arrival changes everything. The music swells, and the audience in theaters cheered like crazy. Thor begins tearing through the battlefield, electrifying enemies by the dozens. But even with this power, the Avengers are only delaying the inevitable. Thanos arrives on Earth, calm, determined, unstoppable. One by one, the heroes fall in his path. He walks through the battlefield like a god, brushing aside attacks from Steve, T'Challa, Bucky, Wanda. Vision begs Wanda to destroy the stone. She hesitates, but he insists. There's no other way. Wanda, in tears, uses her powers to shatter the Mind Stone while holding Thanos back with her other hand. It's one of the most emotional moments in the film. But then, Thanos uses the Time Stone to reverse it all. Vision returns, and Thanos rips the Mind Stone from his head, completing the gauntlet. Fractures and the terrible choice that follows. It begins with chaos in the streets of New York. The Sanctum Sanctorum's roof is a mess of splintered glass and dust. Bruce Banner, trembling, tries and fails to summon the Hulk. Strange, in his calm, otherworldly voice, explains the gravity of what they're up against. But there's no time for philosophical debate. A Q-ship pierces the sky. The ship's maw gapes open like a wound, and with it comes Ebony Maw and the hulking Cull Obsidian. The scene is instant mayhem. Ebony Maw is not a brawler. He's a surgeon of terror. He floats through the fray, speaking in soothing baritone, while he rips the Time Stone-wrapped Eye of Agamotto away from Strange. He lifts the Sorcerer Supreme like a rag doll and levitates him aboard the ship, leaving the Sanctum in wreckage and Wong yelling after him. Tony, improvisation personified, suits up. Peter Parker, still the kid on a field trip, swings into the chaos with beginner's terror and beginner's courage. Tony and Peter latch onto the ship, hurl themselves into space, and the chase is a macabre ballet as they battle the vacuum in Maw's telekinesis. There's a moment when Tony looks up and sees the sky full of stars and a planet-sized problem. Inside the ship, Ma tortures Strange with psychic ploys and physical force alike. But this is the turning point where Tony's code meets Strange's restraint. Tony's suit adapts, nanotech folding into blades and cages as he and Peter crawl through alien corridors. The pair, mentor and apprentice, are a study in contrast. Tony's tired, worldly wryness against Peter's youthful moral clarity. They fight Ma, eject him into the void, and for a beat, they're all airborne heroes in a ship of stolen sky. They rescue Strange, but Earth isn't an option anymore. The Q-ship tethers to space and escape becomes a one-way path to a place most men wouldn't return from, Titan. Across the galaxy, the Guardians respond to the Asgardian distress call. They find Thor adrift, wounded and grieving. Thor crashes onto their windshield like a mythic comet. There is humor, because Guardians are built that way, to be human in impossible space. Yet beneath the quips there's the gravity of loss. Asgard gone, Thor's home a memory. Thor needs a weapon, something that can pierce the Mad Titan's ambition. He decides on Nidavellir, the dwarf forge, a dead star that must be restarted. Nidavellir itself is a graveyard. The forges are black. The star is dim. Eitri, the giant dwarf king, is a remnant in amber, hands crippled, a workbench that remembers thunder. Thanos' cruelty is on display here. He forced Eitri to craft the Infinity Gauntlet and then destroyed the dwarves. Thor's guilt is tidal. Thor's rage is volcanic. Yet there is also a plan. Reignite the star to forge Stormbreaker, a weapon designed to rip holes in gods. The sequence that follows is physical myth-making. The iris is forced open, Thor holds the gate against the forge's fury, and his body is rent and burned by the star's true heat. Eitri works desperately. Groot sacrifices himself, or at least parts of himself, to become the handle. He curls his living limb around molten metal, screaming, and in that fire, Stormbreaker is born. It's a painful, beautiful creation scene. Thor forged by pain, rooted in sacrifice. The weapon is not just steel, it's a promise. Meanwhile, on Nowhere and Vormir, Thanos is methodically collecting. The Reality Stone is wrested from the Collector through cunning and cruelty. Gamora is captured and taken to Vormir. The sequence with Gamora and Thanos aboard that dank, cold rock is the film's dark heart. The Red Skull, cursed, haunted, guiding, tells them the cost of the Soul Stone, a soul for a soul. Gamora, defiant, laughs at the idea that Thanos loves anyone. But Thanos is not a comedic tyrant. He loves in a way that terrifies. He loves by owning, by making choices. Her death, his sacrifice of Gamora, is the first time the audience hears the sound of a villain's unsentimental grief. No roar, no gloating, only the silent tear as he hurls her into the abyss. The Soul Stone completes his collection, but it costs him humanity. Back on Titan, this is where the film's most intimate chaos plays out. Tony, Peter, Strange, and the Guardians arrive, and they set a trap. Their plan is surgical. Restrain Thanos, remove the gauntlet, end the nightmare. Doctor Strange, monk and strategist, has already done the impossible. He sifted through 14,605 futures and found only one in which they win. He knows the odds. He knows the sacrifices. He also understands the impossible necessity of restraint. The Titan battle is kinetic poetry. Mantis tries to soothe Thanos' mind, slowing him. Drax charges. Peter works with Iron Man. Nebula and the others flank. For a moment, the plan looks like it will work. Thanos is pinned. The gauntlet is almost torn off. The team breathes. They taste victory. Then the human element ruptures everything. When Peter Quill hears that Gamora is dead, he collapses into grief and fury. Quill's reaction is visceral and raw, a gut punch to fans and a real human moment in a field of grand cosmic chess. He lashes out at Thanos, breaks Mantis' empathic hold, and the machine springs back into motion. Thanos awakens. The trap falls apart. It's heartbreak in high fidelity, empathy and human error all at once. The aftermath is violent and swift. Thanos, regaining control, crushes planets' worth of plans with inevitability. He rips through defenders. He kills with precision, not hate, because he is trying, as he sees it, to save. Tony fights with everything, his suit becoming an array of desperate shapes and weapons. Thanos stabs through armor and flesh, and Stark falls, bleeding, stunned by how quickly everything unraveled. This is the moment of Strange's decision. He offers Thanos the Time Stone to spare Tony's life. Thanos bargains, accepts, and with 5 stones now in place, the gauntlet almost glows like sunlit doom. Strange's expression is unreadable, his choice cryptic. He whispers, "We're in the endgame now." For the audience, the line lands like a coffin lid closing and a door opening simultaneously. A paradox. In relinquishing the one thing he swore to protect, Strange orchestrates the only path, in one possibility, to victory. Tony survives, wounded, bewildered, and Strange returns the team to a fractured reality. Back on Earth, Shuri works fast in Wakanda to pry the Mind Stone from Vision without killing him. The nation braces for invasion. The warriors assemble. T'Challa, Okoye, the Dora Milaje, the heart and honor of a kingdom, stand with the Avengers. The Outriders come. The sky darkens. The world prepares to break. Aboard the newly forged Stormbreaker, Thor makes his choice. The Bifrost rends the heavens. He arrives in Wakanda like a retribution of thunder, Stormbreaker blazing with raw power, lightning lancing the field. He shouts, "Bring me Thanos!" And the sound is equal parts rage and plea. The arrival shifts the battlefield. The attackers falter under godly force. For a heartbeat, hope returns. But the machine of Thanos had been fed, a villain who sacrificed his own beloved to achieve his goal. With 5 stones and 1 to go, he becomes unstoppable. He arrives in Wakanda as if walking through time itself, calm and terrible. He turns the battlefield into a funeral procession. He doesn't rage, he completes. He rips the Mind Stone from Vision's head after rewinding fate and destroying Wanda's sacrifice. A personal cruelty arranged with cosmic purpose. The narrative beats line up like falling dominoes. Maw's kidnapping, Thor's reforging, Gamora's sacrifice, the Titan ambush, Strange's surrender. Each is a choice. Each accelerates the spiral. And Part 6 closes on a single cracked truth. The heroes were brave, clever, and resilient. They were also human. Their humanity was the hinge upon which the universe turned. A single misstep, a single guileless moment, and the scales shifted. As the dust settles in this part of the story, Tony kneels on Titan, bloodied but alive, and Strange, with the Time Stone gone, utters his weightiest line yet. We're in the endgame now. If that phrase feels like a whisper and a drumbeat at once, that's because it is both. The end is no longer an eventuality. It is the present, and everything that follows will be measured by what was surrendered and what was lost to get there. Meanwhile, back in Wakanda, we see Steve, T'Challa, and the others preparing for an all-out war. Shuri begins the process of removing the Mind Stone from Vision's head while trying to keep his neural network intact. Banner, still in the Hulkbuster armor, stands ready alongside War Machine and the rest of the Wakandan army. There's tension in the air, and the battlefield is set. Suddenly, the sky darkens. Massive ships from Thanos' army descend, dropping grotesque four-legged creatures known as the Outriders. These beasts don't hesitate. They begin hurling themselves into Wakanda's protective energy dome. At first, they're obliterated on contact, but sheer numbers and desperation allow them to slowly break through. Steve, T'Challa, and the frontline fighters charge into battle. The clash is thunderous. Bucky, with his new vibranium arm, and Rocket Raccoon fight back to back. Banner fumbles with the Hulkbuster suit, clearly still at odds with Hulk, who refuses to come out. Thor's absence is felt, but hope remains that he'll arrive in time. Meanwhile, in the skies of Titan, Tony and Peter work together with Strange, Quill, Drax, and Mantis to trap Thanos. The plan is precise. Mantis uses her empathic abilities to subdue Thanos, placing him in a trance while the rest try to pry the gauntlet from his hand. It's working. The glove is almost off. But then, Quill, overwhelmed by emotion, asks Thanos about Gamora. When Thanos confirms her death, Quill loses control. He strikes Thanos, breaking Mantis' concentration. The Mad Titan awakens in fury. The plan collapses. Thanos takes back control, unleashing hell upon the team. He manipulates reality, time, and space itself. He turns Drax into cubes, Mantis into ribbons. Tony fights valiantly, deploying every ounce of tech in his bleeding-edge suit. But Thanos overpowers him, shattering his armor and stabbing him in the gut. Tony is bleeding, weak, and on the verge of death. Just when it seems over, Doctor Strange surrenders the Time Stone to Thanos. A confused Tony watches as Strange, calm and resigned, says this is the only way. Back in Wakanda, Wanda is forced to leave Vision's side and join the battle, unleashing her power to hold back the Outriders. The tide of battle shifts again. Proxima Midnight, Cull Obsidian, and Corvus Glaive enter the fight. Natasha and Okoye take on Proxima in a fierce melee. Bruce finally manages to take down Cull Obsidian by outsmarting him with the Hulkbuster's repulsors. But then, in the middle of chaos, a blinding light. A rainbow arc tears through the battlefield. Thor arrives with Rocket and Groot, wielding Stormbreaker. He crashes down like thunder itself. His arrival turns the tide instantly. Lightning surges, bodies fly, and hope is reignited. Thor joins forces with Steve, Bucky, and T'Challa in a furious assault. In the lab, Shuri is ambushed before she can complete the stone's removal. Corvus Glaive storms in, forcing Vision to flee. Wanda races back to protect him. Together, they try to escape, but Vision is wounded once again. The battle outside reaches a climax. Thor, Rocket, and Groot are wreaking havoc. Bruce struggles with the Hulkbuster. Steve and T'Challa are holding the line. But then, a sudden silence. A disturbance in the air. Thanos arrives. Portal by portal, he steps through Wakanda's battlefield. Calm, determined, and unstoppable. The heroes throw everything at him. Bucky opens fire. Sam dives in. T'Challa and Steve charge. One by one, they're swatted away like flies. Even Thor, who lands a powerful strike with Stormbreaker directly into Thanos' chest, seems to have done the impossible. But it's not enough. Thanos whispers, "You should have gone for the head." He snaps his fingers. Everything changes. A moment of silence follows. Then, people begin to turn to dust. Bucky disappears in front of Steve. T'Challa vanishes as he tries to help Okoye. Groot dissolves in front of Rocket. Sam fades away unnoticed. Wanda watches Vision's lifeless body as she too fades into ash. On Titan, Mantis crumbles. Drax vanishes. Quill looks down at his hands as they turn to ash. Strange, after telling Tony there was no other way, disappears too. But Peter, oh Peter clings to Tony, panicked and afraid. "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good." Tony holds him as Peter pleads, "I don't want to go, I'm sorry." And then, silence. Half the universe is gone. Back on Titan, Doctor Strange uses the Time Stone to view millions of possible futures, seeking one where they win. When Peter asks how many he saw, Strange replies, 14,605. Tony asks, "How many did we win?" And Strange solemnly says, 1. Peter Quill, Drax, Mantis, Stark, Strange, and Peter Parker make their plan to ambush Thanos. As Thanos arrives on Titan, he's surprised to find them waiting. He calmly explains his motives to Doctor Strange. His belief that the universe is finite, and without balance, it will collapse. His plan is to eliminate half of all life so the rest may thrive. Strange counters, questioning his morality. The confrontation turns into a full-scale battle. Strange opens portals, Spider-Man uses his web-slinging agility, Drax charges forward, and Iron Man launches repulsor blasts. Peter Quill dances around the field with his blasters. Mantis uses her empathic powers to subdue Thanos' mind. Together, they nearly succeed. Mantis restrains Thanos mentally, while the others try to pull the gauntlet off his arm. Just when they're about to succeed, Nebula arrives and pieces things together. Thanos killed Gamora. Peter Quill, filled with rage, confronts Thanos mid-battle. He punches him repeatedly, breaking Mantis' mental grip. Thanos regains control, defeats the team one by one, and hurls a moon toward them using the Power Stone, shattering it into pieces that rain down violently on the surface of Titan. Strange uses every trick in the book, mirror dimension, multiplied clones, chains of magic, but Thanos breaks through. He overpowers Strange, and just when he's about to deliver the final blow, Iron Man intervenes. What follows is one of the film's most intense duels, Iron Man versus Thanos. Tony uses nanotech in brilliant, adaptive ways. He forms shields, swords, and even a battering ram out of his suit to keep up with Thanos' brute strength. But it's not enough. Thanos tears through the suit bit by bit, stabs Tony through the abdomen, and prepares to kill him. In that moment, Strange offers the Time Stone. Thanos is shocked. Strange tells him, "Spare his life, and I'll give you the stone." Thanos agrees. As he takes the Time Stone, a green glow surrounds the gauntlet. Now 5 stones are in place. Thanos disappears using the Space Stone. Stark is bewildered. "Why'd you do that?" he asks Strange. The sorcerer simply replies, "We're in the endgame now." Back on Earth, in Wakanda, the final battle begins. The dome protecting the city activates. Cap, T'Challa, Black Widow, Banner, in Hulkbuster armor, Falcon, and War Machine prepare for an all-out siege. Shuri tries to remove the Mind Stone from Vision without killing him, while Wanda guards them. The Outriders, grotesque alien creatures in massive numbers, begin ramming the shield. A few slip under the barrier. The Avengers realize if they don't open a portion of the barrier, they'll be flanked. T'Challa commands, "Open the gate." Cap and Black Panther sprint ahead in tandem, faster than the rest. The Wakandan army charges behind them. What follows is a glorious, chaotic battle. Falcon and War Machine rain fire from the sky. Banner struggles with the Hulkbuster suit but finds his footing. Okoye and Black Widow fight side by side. Then Thor arrives. Bifrost opens, and with Stormbreaker in hand, Thor descends with Rocket and Groot. The lightning surrounds him as he crashes into the battlefield, obliterating the Outriders with a single blow. "Bring me Thanos," he roars. Stormbreaker slices through enemies, even ships. Thor, Rocket, and Groot become the MVPs of the battle. The tide turns, but the Black Order returns. Corvus Glaive sneaks into Shuri's lab. Vision tries to fight him but is wounded. Wanda must leave her post to help Vision, forcing her to abandon the defense of the stone. She kills Glaive, but it costs them precious time. Outside, the battle worsens. Giant mechanical wheels, filled with Outriders, roll through the field. Proxima Midnight and Cull Obsidian attack. Despite all efforts, the Outriders keep coming. Then, Thanos arrives on Earth. Stormbreaker, powered by Thor's rage, becomes unstoppable. He cuts through dozens of creatures and even Cull Obsidian, but the team realizes Thanos is too close. Vision makes a choice. He asks Wanda to destroy the Mind Stone. "You could never hurt me," he tells her, "but please, you have to." Wanda, in agony, agrees. As Thanos walks through the battlefield, knocking each Avenger aside, Wanda uses her powers to hold him off while simultaneously destroying the Mind Stone. With a tear rolling down her face, she succeeds. Vision is destroyed. The stone is gone. But Thanos uses the Time Stone. In seconds, he reverses Vision's destruction and rips the Mind Stone from his head. Vision dies again. The sixth and final Infinity Stone clicks into place. Thor, in a final act of fury, hurls Stormbreaker at Thanos. The axe slams into his chest. Thanos gasps. "You should have gone for the head," he says. Then a snap. Everything changes. He then uses the Time Stone to reverse the destruction of the Mind Stone and resurrect Vision. As Vision comes back to life, Thanos rips the Mind Stone from Vision's forehead, killing him again. With all 6 Infinity Stones now in his possession, Thanos places the final stone into the Infinity Gauntlet. Thor, wielding Stormbreaker, arrives and strikes Thanos in the chest with the axe. Thor presses Stormbreaker deeper into Thanos' chest, and with Thanos weakening, Thor says, "I told you, you'd die for that." However, Thanos replies, "You should have gone for the head," and with a snap of his fingers, activates the full power of the Infinity Gauntlet. A sudden silence falls across the battlefield. Thanos is briefly transported into a dreamlike realm where he sees a young Gamora. She asks him, "Did you do it?" He replies, "Yes." She then asks, "What did it cost?" To which he solemnly replies, "Everything." The vision ends, and Thanos is back in the real world. The gauntlet appears badly damaged, and Thanos himself is wounded. He disappears through a portal, escaping. Then, the consequences of the snap begin to unfold. One by one, heroes and innocents across the universe begin to disintegrate into dust. Bucky Barnes is the first to vanish in Wakanda, confusing those around him. T'Challa the Black Panther vanishes next, followed by Groot, Wanda Maximoff, Sam Wilson, Falcon, and many of the Wakandan warriors. On Titan, Mantis, Drax, Star-Lord, and Doctor Strange all turn to dust. Finally, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, begins to feel it. Holding onto Tony Stark, Peter tearfully says, "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good." He tries to resist the pull, terrified and pleading not to go. Tony, devastated, holds him as Peter fades into dust in his arms. The camera returns to Earth, where the remaining Avengers and heroes stand in disbelief. Cap falls to his knees and mutters, "Oh God." The silence is overwhelming, filled with shock and horror. We then cut to a peaceful scene. Thanos walks out of a small hut on a remote planet, his armor now used as a scarecrow. He sits and looks at the sunset, breathing calmly. A faint smile crosses his face. He has succeeded. Then the screen cuts to black. No music plays. The words, "Thanos will return." Roll credits. The entire theater sits in stunned silence. But the story isn't over yet. A post-credit scene follows. In the aftermath of the snap, chaos erupts in the streets of New York. Cars crash, helicopters fall from the sky. In the middle of it all, we find former S.H.I.E.L.D. agents Nick Fury and Maria Hill. They try to understand what's going on. As Hill starts to disintegrate, Fury races to send out a distress signal using a high-tech pager. Just before he vanishes into dust himself, he manages to send the message. The pager falls to the ground. Its screen flickers and finally reveals a symbol, a gold star on a red and blue background, the insignia of Captain Marvel. Cut to black. End of Avengers: Infinity War. But the aftermath of the snap will ripple across time, space, and hearts. As the screen fades to black and the audience is left grappling with the silent horror of Infinity War's final moments, something becomes crystal clear. This isn't your average Marvel movie. The stakes weren't just high, they were absolute. This was a story about loss, about sacrifice, about inevitability. Let's begin with Thanos, the true protagonist, or perhaps anti-hero of this tale. For all his monstrous acts, Thanos is not portrayed as a mindless villain. He is layered, complex, and disturbingly rational. In his own mind, he's not evil. He's a savior, burdened with a responsibility that no one else is willing to carry. From the beginning, we follow his journey, his quest, his emotional trials, his grief over Gamora, his brutal pragmatism, and ultimately his victory. Marvel did something few studios have ever dared to do. They let the villain win. And not just win, but walk away fulfilled. Wounded, yes. Scarred, certainly, but content. As he sits watching the sunrise over a quiet, untouched world, Thanos smiles, not because he loves power, but because he truly believes he saved the universe. It's this twisted sense of peace that makes him unforgettable. But while Thanos' arc gives Infinity War its shape, it's the Avengers and their allies who give it its soul. Let's start with Tony Stark, Iron Man. His entire journey since 2008 has led to this moment. He's seen the Chitauri, battled Ultron, and fractured friendships to protect Earth. But now on Titan, he's faced with the very prophecy that's haunted him since Age of Ultron. When Doctor Strange hands over the Time Stone to Thanos, seemingly dooming the universe, he does it to protect Tony. Why? Because Tony is the key. He must survive. Strange saw only one successful outcome among 14 million futures, and this is the path to that one shot. Tony's grief when Peter Parker dissolves in his arms is crushing. It's not just a teammate vanishing, it's a kid, his kid, someone he mentored, someone he was trying to protect. And in that moment, Tony breaks, not outwardly, not with screams, but with silence, with stillness. The Iron Man armor has never looked so fragile. Then there's Steve Rogers, Captain America. Ever since Civil War, he's been living in the shadows, away from institutions, away from the flag. But when the world is falling apart, he's the one people still look to. His reunion with Bucky, his fight alongside Black Panther, and his quiet desperation to save Vision, every action is laced with a man trying to hold the world together with his bare hands. And he fails. When Bucky turns to dust, the look in Steve's eyes is devastating. He falls to his knees, not just in shock, but in helplessness. For the first time, the soldier has no war to win. Let's not forget Thor, who arguably has the most heartbreaking arc of all. He's lost everything: his father, his brother, his best friend, and half his people. Yet he clings to one final hope: vengeance. He forges Stormbreaker, a god-killing weapon, and hurls himself into battle with all the fury of a broken man. And he almost wins. But his choice to aim for the chest instead of the head leads to the snap. Thor isn't just angry afterward. He's guilty. He failed when it mattered most. And that guilt will haunt him into the next film. Wanda Maximoff, too, has a devastating journey. Forced to kill Vision, the man she loves, to stop Thanos, she does so in tears, screaming as she shatters the Mind Stone. But Thanos rewinds time, makes her watch Vision die again, and then rips the stone from his skull. Her pain is raw. And when she turns to dust, it's almost merciful. Every major character is tested. Some survive, most don't. But let's zoom out for a second. The brilliance of Infinity War lies in how it weaves together over 30 major characters without ever feeling bloated. Each hero gets their moment, their unique voice, and a chance to shine. The Guardians bring humor, pathos, and tragedy. Spider-Man balances youthful excitement with sobering sacrifice. Doctor Strange's mystical chess game with Thanos adds an element of cosmic strategy. Even the minor characters, like Mantis Shuri Okoye, leave an impact. Then there's the tone. Unlike previous MCU entries, this film doesn't end on a high. There's no victory, no celebration, no witty quip to lighten the mood, just silence, dust, and despair. It's important to remember that this was Marvel's boldest gamble yet. For a decade, audiences were conditioned to expect the good guys to win, eventually. But not this time. This time, the enemy was too strong, too prepared, and too willing to sacrifice. The visual language of the film reflects this. From the warm, golden hues of Vormir, where a soul must be traded for a stone, to the cold, blue desperation of Wakanda's battlefield, Infinity War paints its canvas with both beauty and sorrow. The Russo brothers direct each scene with precision, juggling multiple tones, humor, tragedy, tension with masterful balance. Alan Silvestri's haunting score, particularly the Infinity War theme and the snap motif, lingers in the background like a ticking clock. When the snap finally happens, the music doesn't rise, it falls. A low hum, a dying breath. It's cinematic minimalism at its finest. And through all this, one truth emerges. This was always Thanos' movie, and he won. The breath between the blow and the collapse, where the story turns inward and the audience becomes part of the grieving. The silence after violence. When the snap happens, the filmmakers make a radical choice. They refuse to fill the space with a score that tells you how to feel. Instead, the sound drops away. You hear inhalations, the rustling of cloth, the soft settling of dust. The camera roves over expressions so minor they might have been throwaways in other films. A hand trembling, an eye blinking slowly, a jaw unclenching. Those tiny human details become the loudest things on screen. All the visual pyrotechnics that define the MCU are present earlier. Here, technique bows out so emotion can take the foreground. That silence is the loudest storytelling device in the film. It's the cut the audience didn't know it needed. The moral architecture of Thanos. Infinity War refuses to paint Thanos in simple strokes. Instead, the film sets up an ethical architecture that demands active thinking. Is a murderous utilitarianism any less monstrous if it's offered with sorrow, ritual, and a personal cost? Thanos believes he is right. He grieves. He sacrifices Gamora. The movie gives him the dignity and horror of conviction. That's what makes him terrifying, the plausibility of his reasoning. By the time he sits on that anonymous hill watching the sunrise, he doesn't gloat, he rests. He did what he thought was necessary. The narrative force of Infinity War is that it makes us understand a monstrous act without asking us to forgive it. Performance anchors, why the cast saves the concept. A lot of the movie's emotional work rests on micro-performances. Josh Brolin's motion capture Thanos carries the weight of a tragedian trapped inside a motion capture suit. Still, economical, terrible. Robert Downey Jr. gives Tony Stark a fragile fatherliness that makes the Spider-Man sequence shatter the heart. Tom Holland's improvised last line becomes the audience's conduit into the scene, a child's panic and betrayal in grown-up cinema. Chris Hemsworth, now an actor capable of guttural pathos layered under comic timing, embodies a god who has been emptied out. Every small reaction, Ruffalo's anxious twitch, Olsen's tremor, Cumberbatch's quiet calculation, compounds into an ensemble tapestry that ultimately convinces the viewers that these are people, not merely archetypes. Visual language, color, framing, and movement. Trent Opelok's camera work shifts the movie between grand vistas and brutal close-ups. The cinematography keeps a running metaphor. The more cosmically overwhelmed the characters feel, the closer the camera comes. Vormir's desaturated grief, Titan's burnt oranges, and Wakanda's vibrant greens are not just set dressing, they are mood textures. The framing often isolates individuals in giant frames, huge landscapes that make single people seem small, underscoring the film's thesis that even gods can be overwhelmed by scale. The technical backbone, VFX, motion capture, and Foley as feeling. This film's digital achievements are not displays for their own sake. They're engineering tools for intimacy. ILM, Weta, and other vendors refine subsurface scattering, moisture animation in the eyes, and muscle twitches so that Thanos can betray a tear without ever becoming cartoony. Motion capture is used not to hide an actor, but to reveal one. Sound design and Foley become psychological tools. The unique hum of each Infinity Stone, the metallic bite of Stormbreaker, the small dry crunch as someone becomes ash, all serve to translate metaphysical consequences into sensory cues. Editing as emotional metering. Jeffrey Ford and Matthew Schmidt treat pacing as a way to control emotional blood pressure. Early sequences breathe, jokes and banter diffuse tension. As the film progresses, the cuts tighten and the rhythm accelerates until the final act becomes a staccato of consequence. The key editorial choice is restraint. Allow beats to sit just long enough to register before you move on. This is why the film doesn't feel overpacked despite its huge cast. Score, silence, and sonic decisions. Alan Silvestri's choices are revelatory for what he omits as much as what he writes. The Avengers motif is used sparingly, stripped down to brass and fragmented strings. In pivotal moments, music unclenches and lets the audience hear themselves reacting. When the score returns during the Forge and Stormbreaker sequences, it's a visceral surge of primal tones. Music as engine, not as script. Pre-production, secrecy, and the weight of expectation. Infinity War is a decade in conversation. Its payoffs are built on callbacks, continuity, and cumulative emotional investment. The script and production were wrapped in secrecy, not just to prevent spoilers, but to protect the film's narrative potency. Actors were often given only the pages they needed. Scenes were shot out of order. Double and fake endings were used to preserve the shock. That discipline amplified the film's cultural impact. When the snap landed, it felt earned rather than contrived. Cultural aftershock and the promise of return. The last structural note in this part, the film uses the post-credits pager to perform a tonal pivot. It tells us two things simultaneously. First, the universe is shattered. Second, there's a signal out to someone who could change the tide. The pager is both a narrative device and a cultural Morse code. Hope is not dead. It's merely delayed. That promise is the hinge on which Endgame's entire emotional economy swings. Part 10 is the connective tissue, the moment we stop describing what happens and start feeling why it happened and what it costs. It dissects the mechanics, acting, camera, music, silence, to show how Infinity War moved from blockbuster choreography into something much riskier, communal grief on a cinematic scale. On Titan, the Guardians of the Galaxy finally come face to face with Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange. After a brief scuffle, they realize they're all on the same side. Tony, Peter, and Strange explain Thanos' plan and their intention to confront him directly. Star-Lord, Drax, and Mantis also share what they know, that Thanos already sacrificed Gamora to get the Soul Stone. The tension in this moment is thick. Quill is visibly shaken upon learning of Gamora's death, trying to process it, but still remaining composed enough to focus on the mission ahead. They formulate a plan to ambush Thanos using their combined powers and hopefully take the gauntlet from him. Back in Wakanda, the field is being prepared for a massive battle. The Avengers, along with the Wakandan army, led by Black Panther, stand ready as the enemy approaches. Shuri begins working on detaching the Mind Stone from Vision, trying to do it in a way that doesn't kill him. Bruce Banner, inside the Hulkbuster armor, helps coordinate the battlefield alongside Steve, Natasha, and T'Challa. Suddenly, the alien army of Thanos, ravenous violent outriders, arrives and begins to assault the Wakandan force field. They throw themselves at the barrier relentlessly. Their sheer numbers cause parts of the shield to weaken. To avoid being flanked, T'Challa commands that they open the barrier in one section to channel the enemy into a bottleneck, allowing for a direct, manageable confrontation. As the enemy pours through the opening, a massive ground battle erupts. The Avengers, Wakandans, and others fight in unison. Cap, Black Panther, Bucky, Okoye, and the rest. Rocket and Groot join in as Thor arrives in epic fashion with Stormbreaker and a bolt of lightning, landing on the battlefield like a god of thunder reborn. With Rocket on his shoulder and Groot by his side, he decimates Thanos' army with pure, unfiltered power. This moment is both a visual and emotional high point, showcasing Thor's resurgence and setting the stage for the final confrontation. Meanwhile, on Titan, Thanos arrives. Calm, collected, and brutally determined. He speaks with Doctor Strange about balance, purpose, and his own twisted morality. The battle begins. It's not a sneak attack, it's a full-force ambush. The team coordinates brilliantly. Tony uses his nanosuit to stay on the offensive. Peter uses his agility and webbing to trap and confuse. Drax and Mantis provide support. And Star-Lord plays his role in keeping Thanos distracted. Doctor Strange uses every spell and artifact at his disposal to keep Thanos on the defensive. They nearly manage to pull the gauntlet off him, with Mantis subduing Thanos mentally while Iron Man and Spider-Man tug at the glove. But then, Quill learns for certain that Gamora is dead. His rage consumes him. He lashes out in grief, striking Thanos, breaking Mantis' hold, and ruining the entire plan. This is the turning point. Thanos regains full control, unleashing devastation on everyone. He tosses them aside like rag dolls, one by one. Only Tony remains standing. He fights with everything he has, summoning every ounce of power his suit can generate. He stabs Thanos with a blade, but Thanos breaks it off and stabs Tony in return, leaving him bleeding and on the verge of death. This is where Doctor Strange makes his most shocking move. He gives up the Time Stone to Thanos in exchange for Tony's life. The same Time Stone he swore to protect above all else. He says it was the only way. Thanos takes it and leaves, now with 5 of the 6 Infinity Stones. Back in Wakanda, the battle rages. Wanda is forced to join the fight, leaving Vision vulnerable. Corvus Glaive, still alive, sneaks in and tries to finish Vision, but is ultimately killed by Vision himself after a brutal struggle. As the dust settles on the battlefield, Thanos arrives in Wakanda through a portal. Everyone can feel the shift. His mere presence stops the world for a second. He calmly walks through the field, and the Avengers rush him in desperation. One by one, they fall. Bruce, Steve, Natasha, they try, but it's like trying to stop a force of nature. Vision begs Wanda to destroy the Mind Stone before Thanos can reach him. It's the only way. Wanda, heartbroken, uses her powers to destroy the stone, and Vision with it. It's an emotionally devastating scene. The pain, the sacrifice, the love, it's all real. Wanda succeeds. The stone is gone. Vision is dead. But Thanos doesn't flinch. He uses the Time Stone. He reverses time, restoring Vision and the stone, only to rip it from his head himself. Vision's body drops lifelessly to the ground. Thanos finally has all 6 stones. Thor arrives just in time, flying in like a meteor and burying Stormbreaker deep into Thanos' chest. Thanos is wounded, for the first time truly in pain. Thor approaches, enraged. "You should have gone for the head," Thanos whispers. And with a snap of his fingers, everything changes. The screen flashes white. A ringing silence. Then, slowly, the universe begins to unravel. Tony's face says it all. The burden, the shock, the despair, it's crushing him. He looks up and down, his arms dropping to his side. Behind him, Star-Lord, Drax, and Mantis all start to crumble into dust. Star-Lord is the last to go, whispering, "Oh man," before fading away completely. It's like the soul is being ripped from the universe, one piece at a time. Back in Wakanda, the horror continues. Bucky is the first to go there. He walks toward Cap and says, "Steve," before disintegrating right before his eyes. Steve stares, frozen in disbelief. Then, one by one, the others follow. T'Challa reaches out to help Okoye up, saying this is no place to die, and vanishes into dust, leaving Okoye shocked, stunned, broken. Groot turns to Rocket, and with one last, "I am Groot," he disappears too. Rocket lets out a desperate, "No, no, no," as he rushes to catch his friend, but it's too late. Scarlet Witch, who already lost everything, watches as others disappear around her. Falcon turns into ash midair. M'Baku looks around, confused and terrified. The most heart-wrenching moment comes when Peter Parker begins to feel it. "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good," he says, slowly staggering toward Tony. "I don't want to go. Please, I don't want to go." Peter clutches onto Tony, scared like a child begging not to be left alone. Tony holds him, helpless. "I'm sorry," Peter says, and then, just like the rest, he's gone. Tony is left kneeling in the ashes, trembling. The battlefield is quiet now, silent, just dust floating in the air. Cap, Rhodey, Natasha, Rocket, Oge, and M'Baku are the only known survivors in Wakanda. Thor watches helplessly as the weight of his failure sinks in. Somewhere, on an unknown planet, Thanos sits quietly on the steps of a small, humble shelter. The sun is setting. He watches it with a faint smile, peace washing over his face. He did it. The snap worked. Half of all life is gone. No final words, no music swelling, just silence. Just Thanos sitting alone, having accomplished what he believed was his destiny. And the screen fades to black. But then, a post-credits scene. In the streets of New York, chaos erupts. Cars crash, helicopters fall, people vanish mid-sentence. Nick Fury and Maria Hill are trying to assess what's going on. Hill disappears first. Fury rushes to send a distress signal, a modified pager, but as he too turns to dust, he manages to hit the button. The pager drops to the ground, blinking. A mysterious symbol appears on its screen, a gold star inside a red and blue design. Cut to black. Thanos will return. And that's where it ends. A catastrophic silence, echoing across the cosmos, leaving us to wonder, what now? The silence after the snap is deafening. Across every corner of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the effects of Thanos' decision ripple outward like a cosmic shockwave. The universe is broken. Let's revisit what just happened. With one chilling snap of his fingers, Thanos activated the full power of the 6 Infinity Stones. The space, reality, power, mind, time, and soul stones, each granting him godlike control over different aspects of existence, work together in perfect, terrifying harmony. The result? Half of all living beings in the universe instantly turned to dust. And there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The scale of this is unfathomable. On Earth, airplanes fall from the sky as their pilots disappear mid-flight. Hospital rooms fall silent. Streets, once crowded, now echo with the sound of abandoned cars and the desperate cries of the ones left behind. And it's not just Earth. This catastrophe reaches Titan, Xandar, Sakaar, and every planet in between. Entire civilizations lose half their population in an instant. But let's go deeper. Emotionally, thematically. This wasn't just a villain's win. This was a reshaping of reality, a war fought with honor, desperation, and sacrifice. And in the end, the heroes lost. Not because they weren't strong enough, but because they were human, and because they underestimated just how far Thanos would go. Iron Man, broken and beaten, sits in the ruins on Titan. He's lost everyone. Peter, Strange, Drax, Quill, Mantis, all gone. The genius billionaire playboy philanthropist who always had a plan, now has nothing. Nebula is the only one left beside him, quietly watching as he mourns. The two of them, once enemies, are now stranded together on a dead world, both realizing the same thing. The universe has changed forever. Back on Earth, Steve Rogers, the heart of the Avengers, kneels on the battlefield of Wakanda. His expression is vacant, eyes wide with disbelief. "Oh God," he mutters. "It's not just loss. It's grief without closure, pain without purpose." For a man who always believed in fighting for what's right, the idea that evil could actually win is soul-crushing. But what makes Infinity War so brilliant is that it doesn't treat Thanos like a typical supervillain. He's not in it for power, money, or even revenge. He truly believes he's saving the universe. He sees overpopulation, dwindling resources, and a universe teetering on the edge of collapse. His solution? Wipe out half of all life, randomly, dispassionately. To him, it's mercy, balance, destiny. In his twisted way, he becomes the hero of his own story. And that's why the ending hits so hard, because it makes sense. We watched him struggle. We saw his pain when he sacrificed Gamora. We witnessed his conviction, his confidence, his calm after the storm. When he sits down to watch the sunrise on that distant planet, it's not a victory lap. It's closure, for him at least. And what about the Avengers? The ones still standing? Thor is devastated. He came so close to stopping Thanos. That final strike with Stormbreaker, the axe powered by a dying star, landed right in the chest. But he went for the chest, and Thanos had just enough strength left to snap. That single mistake haunts Thor. It's not just failure, it's personal. He lost his brother Loki, his best friend Heimdall, his people, and now, the universe. Bruce Banner is stuck, literally and metaphorically. The Hulk, once unstoppable, refuses to come out. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's trauma. But now Banner is forced to face everything without the raging green brute he's always relied on. Natasha, still reeling from the chaos, tries to take control. But how do you lead when the world's falling apart? How do you give hope when there's none left? Rocket, the only Guardian who survived the snap, is quiet for once. No sarcasm, no bravado, just loss. Groot, his best friend, his kid, in many ways, is gone. War Machine and M'Baku stand alongside the broken survivors of Wakanda. The battlefield is still littered with destruction. The sky has darkened. There's no celebration, no sense of triumph, just a heavy silence. And in the shadows of the cosmos, the galaxy holds its breath. The Mad Titan has won. The Age of Heroes has fallen. But one thing Infinity War does masterfully is plant seeds. Seeds of resistance, of revenge, of rebirth. That post-credit scene isn't just a tease. It's a promise. That blinking pager Nick Fury drops before he vanishes? It sends a signal, a call to someone who hasn't yet entered this war. That symbol on the pager? Captain Marvel. A glimmer of hope. Marvel could have ended Infinity War with explosions or swelling orchestras, but they chose silence, a slow fade to black. It forces you to sit with it, to grieve, to feel what the characters are feeling. And it's powerful. This film doesn't just challenge the characters. It challenges the audience. We're used to seeing the Avengers win. We're used to clean victories, heroic poses, and last-minute saves, but Infinity War strips all of that away. It reminds us that sometimes, no matter how hard you fight, you lose. And that's okay, because it sets the stage for something even greater. The real question now isn't just what happens next. It's how will they come back from this? How do you move forward when half the world is gone? How do you rebuild back when everything you stood for has turned to ash? The answers lie in what comes next. But for now, this is where Infinity War leaves us. Broken, empty, but not without hope. In Wakanda, the skies begin to darken as the alien invasion force arrives. Those grotesque, multi-limbed outriders, flooding in massive waves through the protective dome. The battle explodes with chaos. Wakandan warriors, led by T'Challa, Okoye, and M'Baku, charge ahead alongside Cap, Bucky, and Black Widow. Falcon and War Machine take to the skies. Bruce, still in the Hulkbuster armor, smashes through hordes of enemies. The Avengers hold their ground. Back in space on Titan, the tension reaches a new height. Doctor Strange, floating in a meditative trance, twitches and vibrates unnaturally as he scans millions of possible futures. Tony asks, "Did you see anything useful?" Strange opens his eyes. "Out of 14,605 possibilities, I only saw one, where we win." Stark's face tightens, processing that impossible probability. Then Thanos arrives. Stepping through a portal, the Mad Titan takes in the battlefield. His gauntlet now contains the power, space, reality, and soul stones. Only two remain. The battle on Titan is fierce and dynamic. The Guardians and Avengers coordinate in a wild, high-stakes dance of combat. Strange uses portals, Spidey webs Thanos, Drax hacks, Mantis jumps onto Thanos' back and tries to mentally subdue him. Nebula joins in with fierce vengeance. It's a whirlwind of teamwork that almost works. They actually manage to hold Thanos down. Mantis struggles but keeps him calm enough. Peter and Tony try to pry the gauntlet from his hand, and it's working. But then, Star-Lord messes up. When he hears from Nebula that Gamora is gone, and Thanos confirms he killed her, Peter loses it. Emotions overwhelm him. He punches Thanos in the face while Mantis is still holding his mind. The spell breaks. Thanos regains focus, and in one powerful burst, hurls everyone away. The gauntlet remains on his hand. He rips through them one by one. Tony fights with all his tech-enhanced fury, blades, shields, repulsors, but Thanos breaks through. He stabs Tony through the gut with a chunk of his own suit. Blood drips. Stark is down. Doctor Strange, seeing this, stops everything. He speaks, quietly but firmly, "Spare his life and I'll give you the Time Stone." Thanos pauses. "No tricks." Strange conjures the glowing green gem, the Time Stone, and surrenders it. Thanos takes it. Now 5 stones sit in his gauntlet. He opens a portal and leaves. Tony, shocked and breathless, asks why Strange did that. Strange replies cryptically, "We're in the endgame now." Back in Wakanda, the battle reaches a brutal climax. The Outriders are relentless. Just when all seems lost, a massive surge of energy pulses across the battlefield. Thor arrives via the Bifrost, with Rocket and Groot at his side. Thor lands with Stormbreaker, unleashing thunderous carnage. He cuts down waves of enemies. His presence reignites the defenders. The Wakandans rally. Elsewhere on the field, Shuri works feverishly to extract Vision's Mind Stone. But Thanos is coming. Wanda, out of options, is forced to destroy the stone herself. Vision pleads, "It's not fair," but Wanda begins to channel her chaos magic. With tears streaming, she destroys the Mind Stone, and Vision with it. The stone shatters. But Thanos arrives moments later. Quietly, he looks at Wanda and says, "I understand." Then, using the Time Stone, he reverses Vision's destruction. The stone reassembles. Vision returns for one fleeting moment, only for Thanos to rip the stone from his head. Vision dies again. Thanos now has all 6 Infinity Stones. He raises his arm. Thor hurls Stormbreaker. One last desperate shot. The axe flies true. It slams into Thanos' chest. Thor rushes in, pushing it deeper. "I told you. You'd die for that." Thanos smiles. "You should have gone for the head." With a snap of his fingers, everything changes. A haunting silence follows. The battlefield stills. Thanos vanishes in a golden flash, leaving behind devastation and confusion. Thor stumbles back, breath ragged, watching the Titan disappear. Stormbreaker still lodged in his chest moments ago, but it was too late to stop what had already begun. And then, the unraveling begins. In Wakanda, Bucky Barnes is the first to go. He turns to Steve, says Steve, and in an instant crumbles to dust, disappears into the wind. Chala, sprinting toward Okoye to help her up, reaches out and vanishes mid-step. Okoye gasps, horror in her eyes. Groot, mid-sentence, turns to Rocket and simply says, "I am Groot," before dissolving. Rocket screams in helpless disbelief. Sam Wilson fades next, his body falling from the sky, disappearing before it hits the ground. M'Baku stands, stunned, as chaos breaks out around him. Scarlet Witch stares at the body of Vision, lifeless, gray, then sees the dust flowing through the air. On Titan, it's no better. Drax begins to vanish, eyes wide. "Quill?" he asks. Gone. Mantis, confused, frightened, whimpers, "Something's happening." And she's gone too. Peter turns to Tony. Panic sets in. "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good." He stumbles forward, clutching his chest. "I don't know what's happening. I don't want to go. Please, I don't want to go." And then Peter Parker, Spider-Man, disintegrates in Tony's arms. Tony is left kneeling, shaking, utterly broken. Doctor Strange, calm even in this moment, offers a final cryptic glance. Tony, there was no other way, and he too vanishes into ash. The silence becomes a scream inside every surviving hero. Back on Earth, the battlefield of Wakanda is left in ruin. Half the team is gone. Cap looks around stunned. "Oh God," he whispers, unable to comprehend what just happened. Thor, Rocket, Bruce and the Hulkbuster, Okoye, War Machine, Natasha, they all remain, standing in the silence of what feels like utter defeat. Far away, deep in space, Thanos arrives on a quiet world. He limps into a small, peaceful hut. The light is golden. He sits on a simple wooden step. The sun rises slowly behind him. A faint smile crosses his scarred face. Content. Fulfilled. He did it. Thanos won. Cut to black. And then the credits roll. But Marvel's not done yet. In the post-credit scene, we find Nick Fury and Maria Hill driving through the city. Suddenly, cars crash with no drivers. Helicopters fall from the sky. People are vanishing left and right. Hill disappears. Fury runs to the back of their vehicle, grabs a strange-looking pager device, and presses a button just before he too vanishes. The pager falls to the street. It flashes a glowing symbol, red and gold. Captain Marvel. Cut to black. This marks the devastating conclusion of Avengers Infinity War. The emotional fallout and cinematic depth. When the credits roll after Avengers Infinity War, what lingers is not just the shock, it's a profound, haunting ache. The weight of silence, the burden of failure. A universe that watched its greatest heroes lose, not just a battle, but half of existence itself. This wasn't just storytelling. This was emotional devastation by design. Character arcs broken, not completed. Tony Stark's journey in this film is nothing short of tragic brilliance. From the start, he carries the burden of foreknowledge. His visions from Age of Ultron, the fear of something he couldn't see, but always knew was coming. And when it finally arrives, he's hurled into a fight he cannot win. When Peter Parker disintegrates in his arms, it is not just a loss, it's a complete unraveling of everything he tried to prevent since 2012. It's guilt weaponized. Steve Rogers, on the other hand, returns to fight with a silent ferocity, standing as a man out of time whose idealism has been hardened by war. But his face when Bucky disappears? It's the face of a soldier who survived every war. Except this one. Thor's arc is Shakespearean. After Ragnarok gave him rebirth, Infinity War strips him bare again. He loses his brother, his people, his home. And even when he gets a new weapon, forges a god-tier comeback, and strikes Thanos down, he still fails. That final moment, it's not just regret. It's a god-tasting mortality. A villain that redefined the stakes. Thanos wasn't just a villain. He was the protagonist in his own story. Marvel did the unthinkable. They made us follow him, understand his twisted logic, and even feel the inevitability of his mission. Through Brolin's motion capture performance, we witness a complex, terrifying being who doesn't scream or gloat. He laments. He mourns what he must do, and that makes him scarier than any screaming tyrant. He's not driven by lust for power. He seeks balance. He thinks he's saving the universe. He sacrifices Gamora. He bleeds. He sits alone in silence after his victory. In a film filled with gods, geniuses, and warriors, Thanos walks away as something much darker, a true believer. Visual storytelling. Every frame a statement. From a purely visual perspective, Infinity War is cinematic gold. The Russo brothers, with cinematographer Trent Opelok and Marvel's VFX teams, craft visuals that reflect tone, chaos, and heartbreak. Titan's orange sky mirrors a dying world and the heat of an unrelenting battle. Wakanda's lush greens are disrupted by alien invasions, a symbol of paradise invaded. The snap is a masterclass in eerie minimalism. No dramatic music, just ambient sound and expressions of disbelief. Notice how after the snap, the color palette shifts slightly, the warmth is drained. Every scene is tinted with death, regret, and despair. Alan Silvestri's score, the soul of the film. Alan Silvestri's soundtrack in this film is not just background music. It's emotional reinforcement. His use of thematic callbacks, especially the iconic Avengers theme, is done sparingly and strategically. But the real genius lies in the absence of music during key moments. The snap, Peter's disintegration, Thanos' final moment. Silence becomes more powerful than sound. It's as if even the music can't speak for the pain we're witnessing. Editing and pacing, a symphony of chaos. This movie juggled over 25 main characters across multiple planets, timelines, and narrative threads, and yet, it never felt bloated. Editors Jeffrey Ford and Matthew Schmidt orchestrated a narrative ballet. Scenes flowed not by chance, but by rhythm. For example, the jump from Tony on Titan to Wanda in Wakanda wasn't random. It mirrors rising stakes on both fronts. Character groupings like Thor Rocket Groot or Iron Man Spidey Strange weren't just fan service. They were perfect contrasts in personality that brought levity and emotional depth. VFX, reality bent to storytelling. The VFX in Infinity War broke new ground. Thanos wasn't just a CGI brute, he was fully emotive. ILM's digital skin rendering, muscle simulation, and eye animation turned Josh Brolin's performance into something tangible. Doctor Strange's magic sequences, inspired by fractals and geometric surrealism, reached Inception-level complexity. Ebony Maw's telekinetic fights, smooth, terrifying, and brilliantly choreographed. And the Titan battle, a CGI masterclass in how to choreograph multi-character superpower combat. Symbolism in the ending. Thanos' smile at the sunset mirrors his line, and then I'll watch the sunrise on a grateful universe. Except, the universe isn't grateful. It's broken. Steve Rogers falling to his knees signals not just loss, but a world with no shield left to protect it. The ash isn't just death, it's absence, a metaphor for people just gone. No final words, no closure. The audience reaction. Collective trauma theaters around the world fell into complete silence during the ending. Some cried, some screamed, others sat frozen. Infinity War did what no other MCU movie dared. It ended on a villain's victory, with no promise of immediate hope. This was not your typical superhero finale. This was Empire Strikes Back levels of gutsy, but dialed to 11. A cinematic punch to the soul. Thor, Rocket, and Groot finally arrive at Wakanda, crashing down from the sky in a storm of blue lightning. As Thor emerges, wielding the mighty Stormbreaker, the tides of battle instantly shift. With the power of a god channeled through his new weapon, Thor decimates Thanos' army, sending lightning arcing across the battlefield. Rocket blasts enemies with precision, and Groot swings his wooden limbs with rage and vengeance. The Avengers rally, and hope surges. Thor joins Steve Rogers, Bruce, and the others, roaring, "Bring me Thanos!" as he leaps into the fray with devastating force. The Outriders stand no chance. The Wakandan battlefield is lit by the storm. But while victory seems within reach, a new threat descends. Thanos has arrived. Teleporting to Wakanda, Thanos walks slowly, confidently. His armor is gone, replaced by a calm menace. One by one, the Avengers try to stop him. Bruce and the Hulkbuster charges him. Thanos destroys him with a crushing blow. Sam and Rhodey fire from the air, but Thanos swats them away like flies. Okoye and T'Challa fight valiantly, but even they are overwhelmed. Wanda, exhausted from holding off Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, must now face the unthinkable. Thanos is coming for Vision. Vision, knowing what must be done, begs Wanda to destroy the Mind Stone. Tears fill her eyes as she holds him close, knowing it's the only way. With Thanos slowly approaching, she uses her powers to shatter the stone. A burst of energy echoes across the field as Vision's body falls lifeless to the ground. Wanda screams in agony. But Thanos, unfazed, uses the Time Stone. Time reverses. Vision comes back to life. The Mind Stone still intact. In a moment of horror, Thanos lifts Vision and rips the stone from his forehead, killing him once again, this time for good. The Mind Stone glows in his hand as he places it into the final empty socket of the Infinity Gauntlet. The gauntlet pulses with complete power. Thor sees what's happened and, with rage and vengeance, hurls Stormbreaker straight into Thanos' chest. The weapon sinks deep, and Thor flies at him, pushing it further. Thanos gasps. Thor whispers, "I told you, you'd die for that." But it's too late. Thanos snaps his fingers. The screen goes white. A shockwave pulses outward from the gauntlet. The battlefield slows. Silence falls. Thor looks around confused. The gauntlet is burned, nearly destroyed. Thanos vanishes through a portal. And then, one by one, heroes begin to turn to dust. Bucky is the first to fall. "Steve," he says softly before disintegrating into ash. T'Challa reaches out to Okoye, "This is no place to die," and vanishes. Sam fades on the battlefield. Groot turns to Rocket saying, "I am Groot," before crumbling. Mantis, Drax, and Star-Lord all disappear in disbelief. On Titan, Tony and Nebula watch helplessly as Peter Parker begins to feel it. "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good," he says, his voice trembling, panic rising. Tony holds him close as Peter sobs, "I don't want to go. I'm sorry." And then he's gone. Tony collapses, heartbroken. Nebula says softly, "He did it." On Earth, Wanda watches everything in devastation. Rocket is alone. Okoye kneels beside the empty air. Steve falls to the ground and whispers, "Oh God." Half of all life is gone. Far away on a quiet planet bathed in orange light, Thanos sits alone, watching the sunrise. Peaceful. Satisfied. He won. The dust had settled, literally. Across every corner of the galaxy, silence replaced chaos. Streets were empty. Ships drifted without pilots. Loved ones stared at the empty spaces where family had once stood. The snap, now echoing in myth as the decimation, had halved existence. And what remained? Trauma. Back in Wakanda, the few surviving heroes wandered through the battlefield in a fog of disbelief. The silence was deafening. Trees, soil, the very air, all carried the weight of loss. Steve Rogers sat on the ground, his uniform torn, the shield slung loosely over his shoulder. Dirt and ash covered his face as he kept replaying Bucky's last word. "Steve?" The plea still echoing in his ears. Nearby, Okoye remained kneeling, stunned that her king, the Black Panther, had vanished right in front of her. Rocket wandered aimlessly, whispering Groot's name under his breath, as if maybe, just maybe, he'd respond. Bruce stepped out of the wrecked Hulkbuster suit, shell-shocked. His inner battle with the Hulk was one thing, but watching half his allies fade into dust was a war of its own. His scientific mind searched for explanations, but none could be found. There was no logic to this. No pattern, just pain. Wanda, still trembling after destroying the man she loved, only to see him resurrected and murdered again, collapsed. The weight of her sacrifice and the futility of it all broke something inside her. But amidst all this pain, one man was more broken than all. Tony Stark sat on Titan, surrounded by ruins and ash, staring into the void. Peter Parker's final moments haunted him. The kid who looked up to him like a father, gone. And Tony had promised Aunt May he'd protect him. A promise now shattered with the universe. Nebula sat quietly nearby. For the first time in her life, she wasn't angry. She wasn't vengeful. Just still. Her father had won. Her sister was gone. And for once, even she felt small. Tony stood up, body bruised and exhausted, and looked toward the stars. The ship they'd hijacked, the Q ship, was stranded. No way to contact Earth. No backup. Just two broken warriors, and the crushing reality that they had lost. Back on Earth, inside the Sanctum Sanctorum, Wong surveyed the city through its shattered windows. He was alone now. Strange was gone. Half the sorcerers across the globe likely vanished too. The protection of Earth now lay in the hands of those still standing. Nick Fury and Maria Hill raced through the streets of New York as chaos erupted around them. Cars crashed, planes fell from the sky. Pilots were gone mid-flight. Hill was the first to vanish. Fury pulled out an old-school pager as his hand began to fade. Just before he vanished, he whispered "Motherfu" and dropped the device. The pager blinked. A new symbol appeared on its screen, the symbol of Captain Marvel. And then, black. No music, just silence. And then, softly, the closing credits began to roll. But Marvel had one more punch to throw. In the post-credit scene, that blinking pager lies still. Dust settles around it. The world is silent, fractured. Then, beep, beep, beep. The symbol reappears. Carol Danvers is coming. Hope is not entirely lost. The war is far from over, end of Avengers Infinity War. But this isn't the end of the story. Because what came next changed everything.